In this lesson, we're going to introduce the concept of services. It's a very important concept in Angular. Services are objects that can contain a certain logic in your application, and you can access this object in different parts of your application. A service returns an object, and that object is only created once, as soon as you need it. And if you need it in different parts of your application, say in different controllers, you'll be accessing the exact same object. So there's only one instance of a service object. In our example, we have our list of expenses in our expenses view controller. But what if we wanted to access this somewhere else? Accessing one controller from another, it's not a very good practice. So we'll create a service that will take care of the expenses, and then we can inject that service in our controllers, and we'll be able to retrieve this list of elements in different parts of our application. We're already working with services here. Angular comes with many built-in services. Scope is basically a service. This is how you include services. Basically how we've been doing it so far. Route params is also a service that comes with the ng route module. And when I define this route at the beginning, I could have also done it this way, which I've updated, so that it's done in the same manner as with the controllers, with the string name and then the actual variable in here. Let's create a new service. We'll use the factory method for that. Think of it as a factory of objects. We're creating a new object. That's what comes out of a factory. The most simple implementation would be to create a service. We can call it however we want and return it. That's the most basic service you could have. But that doesn't do anything, so this service will have, it can of course have methods and properties, anything you want. It'll have something called entries. That will be the list of entries from our application. And now every time we want to access our entries, we just need to inject the expenses service, I want to call it expenses, and then just access the entries property. Let's include the service in the same way as we've included all of our other services so far. Expenses, and I want to have expenses equal to expenses.entries. That gives me access to all of my entries. I reload the page and see that we're looking at the exact same data, but it's done now in a more modular way. Let's include also expenses on the second controller. So I'm going to write expenses and expenses here. Now I have access to that same list of elements in this part. So I'm going to add some text that's going to show the first element, the description of the first element, which is food, as you can see. And that's something very simple. It just refers to the service. Entries, we grab the first entry and we grab its description. Let me reload the page and go to new expense. The ID is still undefined because we're not defining any ID in here. That's why it says undefined. But in here it says the first entry is food. Services are a great way to keep your code organized, and I strongly recommend that you use them. It can be something as basic as what I'm doing now, but we'll add a lot more logic into our service.